everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a game on the Famicom disk system, and that happens to be Arumana no Kiseki. So this game is developed and published by the one and only Konami, and it was released in 1987 and only in Japan, of course, because, you know, we never got the Famicom disk system. So it's a side-scroller that just ever so happens to look like Indiana Jones, and well, it pretty much is like an unofficial Indiana Jones game if you think about it. So the story in this one is pretty much a stripped-down version of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, but instead of playing as a character named Indy, you play as a character named Kaito. Yeah, big difference. Although I do find that the character sprite in the game awfully looks a little bit like the one in Bayou Billy, which is also a Konami game. So yeah, let's get to the main gameplay here. So the goal is exactly what you would suspect, get from point A to point B, and at point B there's a boss, and then after you beat that one, you go to the next stage, and there's 6 stages in the game. But you do have a good array of weapons, where you have some throwing knives, you have guns, you have bombs, you have like a spike bomb, and then there's a swinging bull ass, and finally there is a crystal which blows up everything. But one interesting mechanic that is in this game is that you actually do have a sort of grappling hook thing. It kind of reminds me of the one that also is in Rock and Rope, which was another Konami game ironically enough. So that grappling hook is indeed the most important part of the game, for that you're going to have to use it and get used to it a lot. It may sound very simple, but let me get there. So the controls in this game are what you would expect, you know, one button jumps, the other one attacks, then there's moving around, pause, selecting through your different items, and then using the grappling hook is by holding up and the attack button. Sounds simple, right? But are they at least responsive? Well, it's very inconsistent. So the attacking is very responsive, but as for the jumping, it feels okay, but I do find that trying to make your mark on the certain things does feel a little bit stiff. And just using the grappling is pretty easy, however, trying to master this thing, oh god, you're going to be here for a long time. Because trying to get the grappling hook to connect to the wall, you have to be very, very, very precise. And of course, there has to be some times where you have to stand at the very edge of a platform in order to get the fucker to connect. And another thing you need to know is that when you reach the top end of the grappling hook, you can't jump, you can only go like directly up from there. And there are certain spots of the game like this place with the spears that come out of the walls where you're pretty much always going to take hits, and it also doesn't help with the fact that the hit detection in this game is also very inconsistent. In fact, there has been times where I hooked onto a wall and as soon as I was about to get up, I ended up falling through the wall and ended up just dying. And this has happened a couple of times. If it happened once, I've been like, oh, maybe it was just an odd glitch. But no, this has happened a few times. So yeah, this game does have a few weird glitches like that. Not the kind of good glitches that are fun to fuck with, but the ones that will actually go against you. Also, one other thing I have to mention is that there's this one part where you have to jump on a platform, but the thing is, no matter how hard you try, you can't jump on it. It looks like you can easily jump on it, but the hitbox on it just doesn't recognize it, so you just can't. So how you're supposed to do it is that you're supposed to use the grappling hook, and then you just gotta wait until the thing is low enough, and then you drop down. So as you might tell, this game is indeed ridiculously hard, but as hard as it is, one thing that I will say is that the checkpoint system is actually very forgiving. Whenever you die in this game, you pretty much start exactly where you died almost. So that is good, but the only drawback is that there are certain spots that if you respawn, you'll respawn at like the edge of a platform, then you can just end up falling into spikes accidentally without warning. So even though this game tries to be forgiving, it still has its way of trying to kick you in the jewels. But yeah, overall for the controls, I don't think they're bad per se, but they do feel a little rough around the edges, and of course there is a lot of things that just make them very frustrating and really hard to get used to. So now, as for the game's graphics, I think they do look pretty good for 1987. So the sprites of the game do look pretty good. And some of the stages do look pretty nice, even though there are some of them that do have a lot of brown and gray, but I do think it does fit for this kind of game, since, you know, you are in like a temple and caves and such. But yeah, for the time that it came out, it does look pretty good. Obviously, it doesn't look as good as some of the other Konami games that came out much later, but for what it is, I do think it does look nice. And as for the game's music, well personally I consider this to be the best part of the game, is that the music is definitely really fucking awesome, and that is to be expected for a good old Konami. So pretty much all the songs in the game are very catchy, and they also do fit with the game. The only song that I'm not too huge on is the boss theme, but other than that one though, I think the rest of them are really great. Even the victory theme and the game over screen theme, I do think both of those also sound really cool as well. So yeah, the music is definitely worth listening to. So now, if you wanted to go out and buy this game, so obviously you're gonna have to have an original Famicom with the Famicom Disk System add-on, and I only found 4 on here. So there is a loose one going for $37.99, and then there's another one going for $72, and then there's one for $100, and then there's a sealed one going for $134. Yeah, I'm not surprised it's that expensive, but then again, I haven't really actually looked too much into the Famicom Disk System stuff, so I don't know how much they typically go for, but for this kind of game, yeah, it's pretty expensive. So now, as for my overall thoughts on this game, so this is a game that I really wanted to like, since not only am I a huge fan of Indiana Jones, but also I always do like the kind of games that kind of have that little setting. But sadly, this game is just too rough around the edges, and it's just way too difficult in a way that is just too bullshit. Now, I never have a problem with games being hard, especially in the NES era, where there is like hard games out the ass. But considering who made the game and what typical games that they did put out, yeah, they put out games like Castlevania and Contra, which are very well known for being hard, but there's something very refined about those games. Yeah, Castlevania has that knockback, which kills you instantly, and then Contra has like one-hit deaths. But this game, on the other hand, it just doesn't feel like as good as those. Like, the controls are, like I said, they're very inconsistent, and also there's just a lot of like weird shit that just really fucks with you. But as hard as this game is, believe it or not, the bosses are actually piss easy. So it's the stages that are really gonna piss you off. And I actually do like the level design in this game, but unfortunately, I think it just doesn't work well with the way how you're supposed to handle this grappling hook. So unfortunately, as great as Konami was back in the day, well, obviously, they weren't perfect, and this game is definitely one of their weaker titles from that era. But I'm not gonna go typical anger and be all like, fuck this game, it's a piece of shit. Because I don't think this game is a piece of shit, I just think this game is just very rough around the edges because it really could have been a really good game, but I just think it just missed the mark. But here's the #1 question, is this game still better than Bayou Billy? That's a tough one, but all I gotta say is that, it's maybe about equal. But yeah, it's a hard game to recommend for that it is stupidly difficult, and there's way better other Konami games out there, but yeah, I kind of feel bad about giving this one a kind of more negative review for that. I really did want to like it, but you know how the Bruce Hornsby song goes, that's just the way it is. So that'll be it for today, so thanks for watching and commenting, and have yourselves a great day.